Now, doctor, if you come forward. Raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm the information you're about to give in this court and cause shall be the truth?
I do.
Have a seat, please. Ms. Biggs, can you go tell my jury that we are, again, running behind, and I will get to them as soon as I can. But they could probably go on break for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'll check them in.
Okay.
I see a name for the witness.
What's your full name? Spell your last name.
Andrew Ross Harbison, H-A-R-B as in boy, I-S-O-N.
Ms. Rieder.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's Dr. Harbison, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What's your training, Dr. Harbison?
I'm a board-certified internist, internal medicine.
Right. And what does that mean that you've had in the way of training?
What that means is I've had 1 year of what's called internship, which is pre-training prior to residency, and then 2 years of training in internal medicine solely. And then the board certification implies that I've passed a test and met the requirements of the certifying body.
And how long have you worked as an internist?
So I've worked as an internist off and on since 1997.
In lay terms, what does that mean that you do?
What that means is that I practice what's called general internal medicine, which is basically adult medicine. So it's all aspects of medicine pertaining to adults.
Where are you employed?
I'm presently employed with the Rose City Urgent Care and Family Practice Clinics in Portland, Oregon, or in the greater Portland area.
And are you familiar with the medical history of Matthew Mayfield Johnson, Jr.?
Yes, I am familiar as available in the records in that facility.
And did you have a chance to look at those records in the fall of last year regarding some diagnoses that were made?
Yes, I did.
And what did you see in those records?
What I saw in those records was that a diagnosis was made of diabetes mellitus type 2 sometime in the spring, particularly sometime in early May or late April of 2014.
And as a result of that diagnosis, was any particular course of treatment prescribed to Mr. Johnson?
Yes, a medication was prescribed, specifically a medication called Metformin.
Say it again.
Metformin, M-E-T-F-O-R-M-I-N.
Thank you.
And during May of last year, was Mr. Johnson taking Metformin?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, he was.
Just to clarify, were you the prescribing physician?
No, I was not. This was prior to my employment with the facility. His provider at that time, his primary provider at that time, had prescribed the medication.
Specifically on May 16th, 2014, was Mr. Johnson taking Metformin? To the best of your, he was under prescription.
By the review of the records, yes, he was.
All right.
It was under prescription, but you don't know specifically if he was taking it or not?
I can't say specifically that he was taking it, but he certainly was prescribed the medication, and I can confirm that the medication was obtained.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, have you had a chance to review medical records from Salem Hospital regarding his treatment just after his arrest on May 16th, 2014?
Yes, I did.
And what were the symptoms that led him to be taken to Salem Hospital?
Nausea and vomiting.
Was the diagnosis of diabetes by another physician accurate?
At the time of his emergency department evaluation, the diabetes diagnosis stood. The reason for that is the emergency department's physician ability to diagnose type 2 diabetes mellitus under the circumstances when he saw Mr. Johnson was not possible.
And I'm sorry, I want to make sure we understand your answer. Are you talking about the emergency room at Salem Hospital, or are you talking about the urgent care clinic in Portland?
So, as I understand the question, you want to know whether or not the emergency department physician at Salem Hospital was able to diagnose type 2 diabetes mellitus on May 16, 2014. Is that correct?
No, I'm sorry, and it's probably my inartful question. Is it your belief that the original diagnosis of diabetes and the decision to prescribe metformin was an accurate diagnosis?
No, I do not believe it was an accurate diagnosis nor an appropriate action.
And if one is prescribed metformin when one does not have diabetes, what is the body reaction?
So the body reaction to someone, whether they have diabetes or not, is not substantial. In other words, the effects of metformin on somebody who does not have diabetes is, for the most part, no different than somebody who has diabetes. However, the adverse effects that are related to metformin can be seen in both people who have diabetes or do not have diabetes if they're taking the medication. Does that answer your question?
And what would those adverse effects be?
At least a third of people who take metformin have gastrointestinal adverse effects. And of those, although there aren't percentages, nausea and vomiting can be substantial.
And that sort of nausea and vomiting might interfere with their ability to understand what's going on at any given moment?
I would say that to the extent that they're being ill and the experience of being ill would potentially impair somebody's ability to act, shall I say, clearly.
Right, thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Have you ever actually met with the defendant, Mr. Johnson?
And meeting in what type of circumstances?
In medical setting?
Yes, I've met with Mr. Johnson frequently since the summer of 2014.
And how did so since summer of 2014, that's when you realized it wasn't diabetes?
Yes, I took over Mr. Johnson's care in summer of 2014 when I began working for the facility that I described earlier.
Okay, what's he prescribed now, and what is the diagnosis?
Yeah, there is no diagnosis now. In retrospect, if I'll go into detail if necessary, but I believe that the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mellitus was actually incorrect.
Did he have any health problem?
No, as far as type 2 diabetes mellitus, no, he does not have a health problem in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, you weren't at the hotel on May 16th, 2014?
No, I was not.
All right, would this nausea cause people to engage in sexual behavior?
No. Yeah, this is primarily an isolated impact on the body's perception of gastrointestinal distress.
What about to send text messages, that sort of thing?
I would say that actions can still, in other words, a person's ability to act are not necessarily impaired. But as I said earlier, whether those actions can be claimed to be of clear mental faculty, I would argue that's possible that they were not being done under clear mental faculty. As I said, based upon what I would consider a common sense experience of people, for most people who have experienced the nausea and vomiting and what that sensation is like and how that might impact the ability to think clearly or act clearly.
All right, would marijuana benefit, or I guess help, that nausea and vomiting condition?
Yeah, marijuana has been shown to actually improve nausea. It can improve nausea. The mechanisms by which are pointless to go into, but yes, it could.
And so someone taking it wouldn't, because it's caused by the medicine, there wouldn't be an adverse effect with those two. I know
Would
sometimes
they
you mix
interact?
medicine.
No. To the best of my knowledge, no, they wouldn't. Some of the evidence I've reviewed suggests actually that the use of marijuana for symptoms of metformin, nausea, and vomiting is not effective.
Is not effective?
Yes, but that's, of course, under clinical circumstances.
Okay. And have you had people in your office who are experiencing the nausea and vomiting?
I have had people in the past, not present, but yes.
Okay. And were you able to have communications with them?
I was able to communicate with them. The circumstances under which I saw them, they may not have been acutely nauseating, having acute nausea or vomiting, but certainly they were able to speak with me. I've had people who have had nausea and vomiting, however, not necessarily related to metformin, who have had difficulty expressing their thoughts clearly, mainly because they felt ill. But with time, I would say that depending on the circumstances, I would say it would depend on whether somebody could speak with me clearly about a subject or not under the circumstances of those symptoms.
You weren't at Salem Hospital immediately after this?
No, I was not.
All right. You weren't there the day that the police interviewed the defendant?
No, I was not.
Right. So you don't know how he acted that day?
No, I do not know the specifics of how he acted, yes.
Has anyone ever been untruthful with you in order to seek drugs?
I cannot verify that. I suspect it, but I cannot verify that.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Ryder?
No redirect.
All right, thank you, doctor. I appreciate your coming. You're free to go.
Certainly.
All right, just for the record, I want to say
Thank you very much.
that basically this is the beginning of the motions hearing, and so this testimony is part of the motions hearing. So we've begun the motions hearing, but the rest of the motions hearing, because I had a trial that went over through hopefully very little fault of the court, we have to continue on a different day.
And Your Honor, I'm asking the court for just leeway for a moment for me to put on the record that 3 motions have been filed, just so that we clear the record.
Okay.
3 motions have been filed. One of the motions is a motion to dismiss for lack of proper venue. A second motion is a motion to suppress regarding a search. And a third motion is a motion to suppress defendant's statements. This testimony is applicable to the third motion. I believe it has no applicability to the first 2 motions. I just wanted to put that on the record so that we're clear, since we have 3 motions.
Okay, perfect. All right, that is what we're going to do today. Mr. Johnson, continue to comply with your release agreement and try to get Ms. Ryder the information she believes she needs to represent you well. This case is going to go to trial. We all know that. This case is going to go to motions. We all know that. So let's all share information so that all the information gets on the record if that's appropriate. Okay? We're in recess.
Thank you. Again, Gale Rieder chose to help the district attorney. I don't have to tell people much about that because she tells on herself. Like, all the motions that David Brian Kuhn put in were true motions, and I like to apologize to Mr. Coons for not being able to stay firmly on my case due to his write-up and his disciplinary that he had through the Oregon State Bar. That is the reason why he withdrawed off my case, and I have proof of that. But to keep you guys noted that this lady, Gale Rieder, absolutely hated me. There were times that when we were in court where she said I was stupid, uneducated, my sister had more sense than me, my friends have more sense than me, and this is a lady that was supposed to be there to help me. As you can hear in this video, that the judge stuck me with her for the remaining of my sentence or fight to these people. But at the same time, it's like, dang, what would you do? Take the state off her, or let her, this Gale Rieder chick, lead you into being hung for 160 months? It was so much weighing on my mind, and they knew mentally how to control me because of, again, Gale Rieder had made me take a psyche eval, which I passed, and I proved that I could assist in aiding my own defense, and she put that on the last minute motion to eliminate because my information was stronger than the district's attorneys, and they knew that. So again, follow me as I keep uncovering the truth on how I was wrongfully convicted of charges that I didn't do. I got a felony charge for a crime I never committed. I got a promoting charge for a crime I never committed. That's why I'm allowed to be at home with my wife and my kids, because they knew beyond reasonable doubt that the information that they had and was trying to prosecute me with had been already charged to my wife prostitution citation. So I'm asking for the public help. And again, follow me as I uncover this corruption.